friend, and welcome to the 644th episode of the Sales Podcast. I'm Wes Schaefer, the Sales Whisperer, your host. Today we have Angela Duncan all the way from Miami. She has an interesting story, built up a significant real estate business with her husband, billions of dollars in business, and they split up, and she moved cities and reinvented herself. And we get into how she did it, the lessons learned, what she did, what she will not do again, and how she is focusing to continue her growth after all of these lessons learned. Now, her pivot was thrust upon her through the change in her marriage, right? But Jack Welch was famously known for his line that if the change outside of your business is greater than the change within, then the end is near. So what are you doing to change your business, to stay ahead of the curve? Of course, AI is here. There's all types of debate around real estate, and obviously it's an election year. What is real estate going to do? If you just sit back and wait, then good luck. IBM is out of the PC business, right? They sold that to Lenovo decades ago. Look at what McDonald's offers now. You will hear the advice on this interview to pick a lane, and that is great advice. By all means, pick a lane and own the lane. But eventually, there may be an opportunity to branch out, to change lanes. And, look at McDonald's. They systematized getting hamburgers, French fries, Cokes, and shakes out the door quickly. Then they branched out, to breakfast, chicken, fish, salads, pretty decent coffee. If I'm being honest, I like it better than Starbucks coffee, and it's cheaper. But you could say, well, look at Chick-fil-A. They only do chicken. There's always an argument to go either side of the coin, right? There's always a dichotomy. There's always a trade-off. But I bring this up because you need to be looking at your business, looking ahead. Try to look over the horizon, around the corner, whatever little analogy you want to use. But you can't just sit still. By all means, if you own a lane, go fast, dominate that lane. But even Google, they give their people and encourage them, and they may even demand it, that 20% of their time be spent on a passion project, something that interests them. I think Gmail came out of that. Allocate some time to experiment. In marketing, we call it a control group. I just wrote an email series for a client. And so we're going to compare it to a couple of companies he's been using. Well, one didn't cut it. He switched. Their emails are just drab. But hey, I'm pretty sure mine will win, but we now have a control group. If I beat the company that we're using this month, then mine becomes a control group. Then I'm going to keep running what works, but I'm going to keep experimenting. I'm going to tweak a few things, change up the cadence, change up the offer, and test that with a subset, 10%, 15% of the list, always trying to improve. I don't think that my first pass is the best thing I will ever create. Hopefully it's the worst thing I ever create, right? And I can constantly improve it. So what are you doing to confirm and affirm that you're doing all that you can? And look, it's hard. The longer you do something, the more you don't want to change it. I get it. I'm a grandpa now. I'll be 54 next week. We can get in a groove. That groove can become a rut. Bring somebody in from the outside to kick your butt, to at least have no sacred cows. They can answer some hard questions. And sometimes they're not, the hard questions are just the obvious things. They're sitting right in front of you, but we become blinded to things we just do over and over again. The routines can blind us. So get somebody that you trust to ask some questions, get the creative juices flowing, and don't worry about the change, the potential chaos, the activity that it will create. Okay, it's better to find it now and take control and be proactive in fixing things than being reactive. All right. If I can help, hit me up, thesaleswhisper.com. Now let's bring on our guest. Angela Duncan, empower your money, empower her money, right? Welcome. I could kind of say welcome back to the Sales Podcast. We'll explain that all the way from, is it Miami? You're in Miami,
yes.
Right? All right. Welcome. How the heck are you?
I'm doing amazing.
That's good. We had a little audio issues, so doing this again, but I've been following your escapades. Were you in LA?
I was in LA a few weeks ago, yes.
Don't even tell me. I got to see this online. I see how you are. Although not much gets me to LA. I'm 90 minutes or 4 hours from LA. Depends on the traffic. So I tend to stay away.
Yeah, I came in for a conference, walked down Hollywood Boulevard because they were setting up for the Oscars, and literally just flew back home the next day.
Oh, yeah. So what was that all about?
Real estate and real estate investing.
Nice. So is now a good time to invest in real estate?
It's always a good time to invest in real estate. Mm-hmm.
As long as you buy right.
Correct. And know what you're buying too. Do your research. Don't just jump in because you think it's a great place to invest.
Yeah, that's crazy. It's a crazy world. So that was your background, right? So we're gonna skip around a little bit because I know a lot more of your story from the first time. But you were in Tampa, right? In real estate with your husband.
Yeah, my ex-husband, we owned a RE/MAX office together. It was a top 5 RE/MAX for many years. And we had sold over $2 billion in real estate. And like I said, real estate's a great investment.
Billion with a B?
Yeah, $2 billion with a B.
B is in boy, B is in Batman, B is in bazooka, billion?
Yes.
Holy smokes. Over what time frame? Because that's a lot of real estate.
Yeah, over the course of over a decade.
Yeah. That's amazing. And like you too, or your whole agency?
Yeah, we had a team set up, so different than a regular brokerage. It was us advertising my face was everywhere. So, people kind of knew the team by the name, and we just were able to hand over leads to agents and let them do their magic to get the clients closed.
Nice. But a few years ago, everything changed and you started from scratch in a whole new city.
Yeah. Moved to Miami. I started an insurance company, found out I didn't really like that, sold it, then launched a podcast and still in real estate investing.
Why the pivot out of what you knew?
I wanted to, for anyone who's been married for a long time and went through divorce, you kind of go through this loss of identity. Like I didn't know who I was as an individual anymore because I was so used to being a married couple and we had such an identity with the real estate company that when, he bought me out of everything, I lost that identity. And so moving to a new city and finding myself and just giving myself grace and time to heal and figure out what's next, that's kind of why I decided to do something completely different, but still in the real estate space too.
Yeah. So how long did it take you to realize, okay, this is a wrong move?
Yeah. Well, for the insurance company, I was about 2 years.
Oh, wow.
I'd been in insurance for about 5 at that point, but it was the first time I launched a company on my own, grew it without the other half, right? You learn very quickly what you're good at and what you're not good at. And so sometimes you take things for granted when they're around, but I've definitely learned what I'm great at. And I just want to stay focused there and hire out those things that I'm not good at and just know that I'm not one of those people that believe if you're not good at something to keep hitting it or keep, working at it, you'll get better. It's just if I'm not good at it, it's not my strength and I'm going to hire it out to somebody else.
Nice. A lot of people won't do that though. They'll be like, oh, this is embarrassing. What will people say? They'll say it was a knee-jerk reaction. I'm going to prove them wrong. It's like throwing good money after bad, right? Did that kind of enter your mind a little bit?
No, not at all. Because I think, as a kid, we're taught that way, right? If you're not good at math, your teacher's like, well, get a tutor, stay after school, come early and keep working on it so you can get better. No, if you're not good at math, you're not good at math. It's okay. You can be great at something else and not good at math and still be highly successful in life. But I think when we're taught that as a young age, that's kind of what we continue to think is our truth. Well, for me, I knew that some things in the business were not my strength. I don't want to do them. And luckily we can hire other people that, can have that skill set to do that part of your work so that you can grow in the areas that you do enjoy and that you are great at.
So did you close down the insurance? Did you like hand it over to someone else, or
I
what did you
learned
do
a
with it?
lot about creative financing. So I did a creative buyout where an existing insurance company came in and bought my book from me. I am still licensed. I can still service and sell insurance. It's not my focus now, but the way that we structured it really kept me, sending referrals because I can still create an income from those referrals. And that way, I'm incentivized to send them clients. They still grow the book, and then it's a win-win for both people.
Nice. Okay. Had you done a decent amount of business in those 2 years?
Yeah, quite a bit. And I acquired a couple of smaller companies. Florida has seen just a really tough market when it comes to insurance. We had a lot of carriers leave. We've had double and triple, rate increases. What I was finding is that the smaller insurance companies weren't profitable and they didn't want to do it anymore. So I was acquiring and growing the company by new accounts. So hitting the double whammy there, grew it, and then just decided I want to get back into real estate.
Interesting. Because it would seem like, from the outside looking in, it's like, it's almost a perfect storm, right? You're there. You don't have any of that old baggage, from being an older agency. You can kind of pick up the pieces, pick and choose. It seems ideal. Was it just boring? Like it just wasn't your jam?
For me, there's not enough money in it, especially in the early years. Clients will leave you for $5, but they don't understand what they're leaving, right? They think that they're getting a cheaper rate on the same policy, but the other agent may not be explaining what they're cutting out. Sure. And I'm all about education. I want to create wealth and freedom for clients, but if they're not willing to sit and go through a very boring, I get it, insurance policy so I can explain all of the benefits of what you're getting versus the $5 you're saving, then it's just not the right fit for me. Like I really want to empower people with their money, and insurance is just not something that I felt like was my greatest strength to be able to provide to people. But yes, insurance for the most part, especially property insurance, is a recession-proof business, right? We always need insurance. It has to be there. You're getting a loan. You need insurance. So it's a great business to have and to grow that will get you through different cycles. It just wasn't a right fit for me anymore.
So talk to me about real estate. What is working now? Because I feel like the government is always so manipulative. The Fed is always so, like, it's truly not a free market. So it's like you got to read the tea leaves. Like, what's the government doing? What's the Fed going to do? Of course, there's local things that can give you some insight, some indicators, but like, what's the play today?
Yeah. And I think about when people say, oh, we're in a tough market, it really isn't necessarily the real estate that's tough. It's the debt. It's the mortgage market. So for example, when we went through, the big crash in the late 2000s, that was a mortgage crisis. It wasn't a real estate crisis. The reason why we were going through it is because banks were loaning to people they shouldn't have. And yes, people were taking advantage of it, getting loans that they didn't qualify or could really afford, and then getting these adjustable rates that no one really explained to them what was going to happen because they just wanted to sell loans, right? So we were in a debt crisis then. We're in a debt crisis now, again, with the commercial real estate, because we do a lot of adjustable rates in commercial. And so we're not able to, really have profit or raise rents to meet 7% interest rates. So yes, it's a very challenging multifamily, meaning apartment complexes in the real estate space. But really pick a lane. Pick it, whatever lane that you want to invest in, and really become a student and know that lane inside out. Mobile home investing. Maybe you're a single property flipper. Maybe you just want to own condos on the beach and rent them out, Airbnb. There's still a market in every lane that's possible right now to make money. Myself, I currently focus on tax liens. I think it's a huge lucrative market because when a tax lien is on a property, go back and explain it. So if you have a property, you have property taxes. And if you don't pay the government their property taxes, they're going to put a lien on your property. They need that income to pave roads, to pay for police and teachers. So they need that money. Whether or not you can pay it, it doesn't matter. So they're going to put a lien on the property and they're going to get paid no matter what. So for me, pretty secure investment. But you need to learn how to do tax lien investing to do it properly. Otherwise, you can get yourself in trouble. That lane too.
Are you doing them in your state, or are you doing them nation?
Yeah, Florida's not my favorite state. Florida does pay up to 18% interest on a tax lien, which is great, but their foreclosure time frame can be up to 3 years. I don't want to wait that long for my money. So other states like Illinois that pays up to 36, much shorter time frame. California has a much shorter time frame, so they're a little bit more lucrative. So again, you've got to understand the process. You need to understand what the state is offering, the time frame until foreclosure or until you could really get your money back. And also you have to drive by and look at properties, because you could be buying a tax lien on a piece of dirt. And I don't know about you, but I don't want to own any dirt. I want real estate. So you really have to learn, the process and understand the rules behind tax lien investing.
Yeah, very cool. And so are you teaching this?
I am not teaching it necessarily. I do talk a lot about it online. I do videos and podcasts, and I do speaking events. So I teach people about tax liens, but my primary focus is I'm a consultant. I work with a company that offers tax lien investing strategies that are just passive income, meaning give me your money, we're going to put it to work, and we're just going to send you a check every year. And it's the same amount every year, no matter what we make, we're just going to give you a check. So I like that because we're busy. A lot of people are busy. They don't really want to spend the time to go out and do the work, but they want the income and they want the wealth from it. So we're just putting those two worlds together and being able to offer them a way for them to invest without having doing all the work. And yes, we're going to make more money than you. That's just the way it goes because we're doing the work, but we still give you a set rate that we're going to pay you every year.
Yeah. Very cool. So what are you teaching now? What is you mentioned a podcast, you've done your first and maybe your last live event recently. You wrote a book. So what's your focus now?
I know. I feel like last year I was so bored, as an entrepreneur and owning a company and owning lots of companies over the years. When I sold my insurance company, I got really bored and I thought, it would be fun to write a book. So I hired a coach, taught me how to write a book, taught me all about the Amazon system and how to be a bestseller on Amazon without having to pay companies, which you can do, pay companies to help make you a bestseller. Didn't want to do that. I wanted to learn it and do it myself. I don't teach that, but it's definitely a process. I threw my first live solo event last year here in Miami. A lot of work. I don't have a big team and I wanted to do every piece of it so that I can learn it. Then decided I wasn't going to do that again, even though we sold out and it was a great event. Podcast has been incredible. I mean, as you know, you get to meet people from all over the world. I learn about business in different countries. I learn about women and how they approach business and money in different countries. So that's kind of a fun project. But yes, the private investment world, that's how I make my money. But I'm not quite sure what's next after this. I'm sure we'll figure something out.
Yeah. How much is the benefit of the Amazon bestseller status? I mean, I know it gets some attention, but is the juice worth the squeeze? Because it seems like people slice it and dice it, and it's not a New York Times bestseller, but have you gotten enough bang for the buck? Getting that award?
Yeah, I love this question because there's a lot of secrets behind this. One, my kid has no idea. She's 20, college. She doesn't know what a New York Times bestseller is. So to me, it's not as relevant as it used to be. I mean, at least with the younger generation, I think if TikTok would offer an award that said bestseller, that would probably be more relevant today than a New York Times bestseller. But learning how to pick your category on Amazon is key, and setting a date, usually during the week, that you're going to launch. Because if you can reach out to as many of your contacts as possible in a 24-hour period once your book goes live, you're going to know ahead of time based on, research and picking a category, how many books do you actually need to sell to hit a bestseller? And it's incredible. I mean, my secret is I sold 98 books in one day and I hit bestseller in 4 categories. I beat Dave Ramsey, which is a person that I used to teach what he teaches. But to say that I beat an icon like that in a category like finance was an incredible achievement for me. But the book itself is credibility. And that's been the biggest
book for
thing.
sure. I mean, mine, the setup, mine's right behind me. Yep. I self-publish both. And just having a book gives credibility.
Yeah.
So I'm just wondering, I haven't pursued the Amazon bestseller status, so can you point to things like, has that been worth it?
Yeah, I think saying that I'm a best-selling author over an author builds so much more credibility, and it's more credible than selling $2 billion in real estate. It's more credible than having a top 5 podcast in the world. When I put the best-selling author as the first part of my bio, people will reach out to me to speak based on that more than anything else that I feel like I've accomplished in my life and has taken a lot more work to do. But for some reason, people think it's such a hard thing to do because they don't understand the system. And that to me is the biggest credibility and why people, kind of reach out to me to be a speaker on their stages.
Nice. Okay. I like it.
Yeah.
So you hired John Lee Dumas, right, for helping you with
For
your
my
podcast?
podcast. Yes.
And how has that been?
It's awesome
Yeah.
that has that track record, because if you want to accomplish something, you might as well learn from their mistakes first, right? I don't want to have to redo or take longer and make mistakes that someone else can just teach me if I hire and pay them to help me along the journey.
Yeah. What can people do if they don't have a little? I mean, you had a nice windfall from selling your business, right? Because hiring coaches, hiring James Malinchak, hiring John Lee Dumas, these are big moves. Some people can't swing it. I mean, are there some kind of do-it-yourself tips you've learned along the way in writing or selling, marketing, podcasting, any, pick your lane, right?
Yes.
That you would encourage people to go down if money's tight and they're trying to either grow like their small business or they're trying to make a leap from the W-2 world out into their own thing.
Yeah. So first is invest in yourself, which is your own education. We have so many platforms, YouTube, podcasting, where you can go find one topic, one niche market and become a student and just learn. Spend the time to invest in your own education. I can pay for a coach today. I wasn't always able to do that, but I would find mentors in a field that was really interesting to me that I wanted to learn more about, especially if it comes to business or investing. And I just absorbed as much content as possible. It's incredible to me that even in today's day and age, people watch on average 3 hours of TV a day. That's incredible. Like, turn off the TV, turn off Netflix, Hulu.
I don't watch 3 hours of TV. I watch 3 hours of Netflix. It's different.
Yeah, well, that's the same thing though. If you're not watching Netflix to learn and grow yourself.
2 hours of Hulu and 1 hour Netflix. Okay, so it's not even TV.
Well, where did you watch it on?
My iPad.
There you go. Okay, we'll call it three hours of consumption of non-educational.
Fine.
Yeah. So I mean, that's a big thing, and also barter. When I was younger, I could trade my time for mentors. So maybe they needed an assistant, or maybe I knew something about a subject that they weren't privy to and just didn't know, and I just traded them for knowledge. So there's a lot of ways for you to still gain the knowledge or have a coach or a mentor without having money, but you just have to get creative with it.
Yeah, I like the bartering side, and that's totally viable. And I've done that with a lot of people over the years, and I still will. If something comes up, and it's an equal trade, like no sweat. And there's so much good stuff online for free. Because I have this discussion with clients, and because sometimes they'll feel bad charging for something. Like, oh, this is available out there. Like, yes, it is. People are paying you to aggregate this. They're paying you to speed it up. They're paying for your unique take. It's like, I don't say that I invented sales training, right? But they're going to get my angle, my approach. I tell them all the time. I mean, I quote the Bible all the time. There ain't nothing new under the sun. I mean, it's kind of a Southern translation, there's nothing new under the sun. And so don't feel bad about charging for your own flavor. But yeah, there's so much good stuff out there. I mean, you're right. It's the world is literally at our fingertips. So you're right. They numb themselves. I call it pot porn and playoffs. So it's just numbing themselves. And I'm like, dude, invest in yourself. Like you said, go. Oh, okay. So yeah. Good. Anyway, I get off on that.
Coming back from the tangent.
Gosh, there's so much good stuff. So, all right, cool. And so what's your plan now? So dabbling a little bit in insurance, but no, investing in tax liens, but not your jam. Live events. Okay. Been there, done that. Is speaking a big thing? Are you, is it like a paid keynote that you're doing? Or are you able to sell from the stage? Is it a little mix and match?
Yeah, it really depends. So, a little bit about my backstory. I grew up in Section 8 housing, welfare, and poverty, lived in cars, parks, other people's houses, and I didn't have money growing up. So I know if I had more education or if my mom had more financial education, maybe that type of childhood wouldn't have happened. So I know the information is out there. What I want to do now, after studying money for 25 years, is find an avenue that I can reach the most people. So being podcast host and being on other podcasts, I want to teach people about money. I want them to know that there's other ways that they can learn about money and help create whatever financial freedom looks like for them. So yes, speaking is a great opportunity. And, I also speak for nonprofits because I know that they don't necessarily have funds to give me to come speak on their stage, but they have an incredible audience that needs to learn about money. And so if I can reach more people by speaking, then that's my mission. And I will give a tip to the speakers out there too. Obviously, we can't always work for free. Otherwise, I can't keep my lights on, right? If you have bills to pay. So if you are going to speak for an organization that doesn't have a budget necessarily, one, they might have a budget for books instead of speaking. So give them the opportunity to maybe buy some books and give to the audience. Two, I ask for the database. Everyone that comes, if I can just get their email, I have a free, smaller size book that I can offer to the audience and I can email that out to them. So I'm creating more value and again, continuing that teaching. So I'm trading my time for that database and also future opportunities because I don't know all of the members of the organization. I don't know all of the members in the audience, but letting the audience know that this is my passion and my mission. I want to teach people about money and about investing. So if they know of anywhere else that I could help impact people to come see me, reach out to me, and let's get on a call and figure out how I can reach that audience. Almost every event I've gone to has led to another speaking opportunity because I make that ask from the stage, You have to tell them what you want. You have to tell them how you can help their audience and make it super simple for them. And then it clicks in their brain like, oh yeah, I have this event coming up. I need a speaker. I mean, today I got offered to be, they call it, the master of the ceremony. They called me and asked me to be an MOC. I don't know what an MOC is. I said yes. And then we got on a call, right? And I found out that their audience is financial advisors and insurance professionals, which is right up my alley for what I do for a living to be able to reach those type of people and teach them about different ways of investing. But I'm doing the event for free because they have offered me free content. So their film guy is going to give me all of my clips, all of the speaking. They put me on a panel. They put me advertising for the entire event. And now I have a new audience of 100 people that I didn't know going into this, but they're not paying me for the event. But all of the added stuff I know I will benefit from. So it goes right back to that bartering.
Yeah. Is it local or you have to travel?
It's in West Palm Beach. So they are paying for the hotel, but I will drive there. It's about 2 hours from where I live.
Okay. That's not bad.
Yeah.
My first paid gig, it was way back in 2000. And, but it was, they paid and it was in Vegas. So they covered, I drove up and they covered mileage and lodging and meals. And, I didn't have a book back then. So, but I had access to it was a rare book back then, but you can get it now. But, I brought copies of someone else's book. I sold $12 in the back of the room of someone else's book just because I had something to sell. And people had me sign it. I'm like, I didn't write this book. You know that, right? I just recommend it. That's fine. We want you to sign it. I was like, okay.
Now, did you at least have like a one-page sheet in there to talk about you and to boomerang them back to your website or something else?
Oh, for sure.
Okay.
Yeah, I'd put my own sticker. And, but
good.
Like I told him, this is not my book. Oh man. You ever hear this comedian? He died years ago. His name was Mitch Hedberg.
I don't think so.
Look him up. He was young and tragic, but super funny. And he was like, he's like really deadpan. And like the title of that one bit, was like something like this CD is for sale. So he's like, I would go in and put my CDs, in books in record stores back when they existed. Right. He's like, and that people bring it up to the register, like, what is this? No, that CD is for sale. But there was no barcode, no nothing. He was like, get it out there, get in front of people's hands. But yeah, it was the same kind of concept. And I'm glad I did. I was selling the book online, so I knew it was popular. And I understood like selling from the back of the room, whatever. But I started the Sales Whisperer and I went back into corporate America with some guys, previous coworkers. And they made me an offer I couldn't refuse. So, but I told them, said, hey, I got this keynote gig. I'm giving this talk, and they're like, hey, that's fine. So I was still an employee. I was back to being an employee. So I couldn't do too much consulting, but I was building my website and I was selling software anyway on my own. That was a big part of how I've always made money and the residual. So selling that book, it was like, I still chuckle this day. That was 13 years ago. So with inflation, it's damn near double, right? So I just sell a couple of grand of someone else's book. But anyway, so is that your plan? Do you want to just keep speaking? Is that going to be, is that your goal? Do you want to be like on bigger stages and make that a prominent part of what you do?
Yeah, absolutely. I think you can reach a much broader audience. Also still goes back to the credibility piece. I do have ways that I can offer people to invest and create income for themselves. And what better way for them to come and approach me than seeing me on a stage? It just helps with the credibility piece. And I was curious too, because you talked about the CDs. One of the things I heard, and I haven't tried this, curious to see if it works. But if you took 30 copies of your book, or 20, probably not that much nowadays, but maybe 10 copies of your book and put it on the shelf at Barnes and Noble, then paid some teenagers or college kids to go and try and buy it and then see what happens. Obviously it's not going to be in their system, right?
Right.
It has a barcode on it from Amazon, but will the manager finally say, oh, maybe we messed up. Maybe we ordered books, we didn't put it in the system, and then you get into the shelf? I mean, I'm curious to see if that would work, because the CD idea would be good.
Well, yeah, and I have my books, they do get distributed through Amazon to other retailers like Barnes and Noble. So there is something behind the scenes, and I haven't bothered to learn all their nuances. So yeah, that could probably work.
Yeah, or if you have local bookstores and you're an author, you offer to give them 50 books for free if they'll do a book signing, and they advertise it, you advertise it, because it just goes back to credibility. If you really wrote a book, you took the time to do that, and you think it can help people and impact people, think of some creative ways to get it into different audiences that you don't have access to.
Yeah, I mean, good old guerrilla marketing. So I like it. Very, very cool. So you're speaking. We got your book. Do you have another book in the works?
I am working on another book. So one of the things I put into play is, as I am on other podcasts or interviewing people on my podcast, I have a set list of questions that I kind of ask them offline, because it's a little personal when we get into your own money and your own investing. But I'm just getting ideas on where people might lack education, I can incorporate that in my next book. I was mainly money is easy shit. I learned to coach. You don't talk about yourself, you talk about other people. So probably going to scrap that title altogether and just wait till the book gets put together and then come up with the title then. But I really want to figure out where people are lacking education first. Then I those topics, make it super simple, to understand and educate people along that are
What are some biggest topics you make?
Yeah, most people, that's the stock market. Only invest in stock market if they understand the opportunities in real estate, how to invest in real estate. So I find a lot of that. And when we tell people, that we can give them higher returns than a stock market, they get very they get scared, right? You get 10% annually stock market. That's what advisors do these things for years to calculate how much you need to plan on that, right? But stay really you higher returns, and they're investing that offer much higher, but it's still conservative and it's pretty much guaranteed because the government has to have money in order to their budget. But people just don't know that. Even all the information we have today, it's used. People probably don't that action. How do we make it simple so they will take action? Actually, using bigger ones are like that.
Well, it is scary. It's confusing. A lot of people, they may not have a lot of stuff.
I mean, after they
They in there, and then maybe there's bills, and maybe they didn't have less those, and then all their you do that. All that.
Because they're going to talk out of it. I mean, if your employer is doing a match, okay, but the fees behind 401, most investors have no clue what the fees are that they're even paying in a 401 program.
No, they don't. But the company often can, they're mad. That's free money. As long as you're writing things, you get some crazy fun, some index, or who knows,
and that has always irked me. I always see this meme right around this time, right? It's like, I'm sure glad, my school didn't teach me about taxes.
I got it. I was like, no, it's not 0%.
Oh, and it's usually, if I can sit down with them for a second, they get it. But usually they're like offended. What are you talking about? You gave them your money tax-free or interest-free for a year. I'm like, you want to be writing checks. And, I learned that early on. My second job out here.
It was weird. I got a ball again mission, but because of that, I weren't like technically employees,
and so I could elect to have no income tax withheld. So we just set up a separate savings account, just kind of carved it out. So when I got a check, we just pushed 30 over, just and just built it up. And and I learned you had to pay quarterly, like a good faith estimate of what it should be. But because I was new at that, it was my first full year as a salesperson. Like, I don't know what, there's no good faith estimate. So we paid very little. And then, I would write a big fat check in April. And but if you're good with your money, back then, 99, 98, 99, interest rates were 8, 9% in a savings account. So, it's like I'm making money on my own money, as it should be. But they don't have the discipline to do even that.
Yeah. And if you just said 8 or 9 interest rate on savings account, and I'm sure the audience is like, what? But imagine what the mortgage rates were at that time.
Yeah. Well, mortgage rates were around 9. So whatever savings were a little bit lower. So, but in that range. And especially the last decade at least, right? Interest rates have been 0 on savings. So I get it, but it's better than giving the government your money for free. That's all. If nothing else, even if you just get cash and stuff your mattress, don't let the government have it for free. It's like, oh, but people don't know. It drives me crazy.
Yeah. So what we're here for. We're here for education purposes to make sure that they don't make the same mistakes we did early on.
Yeah. So you are online, Empower Her Money. That's your Instagram, that's your website, right? So they can find you everywhere with that.
Yes. And I've learned to post a lot because people want to know who you are. They're going to research you first before they decide to hire you as a speaker or to invest with you. So I do a lot of posting, and I'm grateful that I have an amazing assistant who helps me look great on social media. We're just putting out what is real. I don't go and post things that are not realistic or that haven't happened in my life. But I do post a lot of content videos because I'm just educate as much as possible. I want people to listen. So the more information I can put out there, the more that they can learn, the more questions that they ask. And then they come to me with questions. And I do check my own messages on Instagram and Facebook. I get questions there, and I'll shoot a video and just send it back to them in hopes that I can do something to further along their financial journey. And the more that I can just distribute that information, hopefully change some lives along the way, then that's my purpose. I'm serving in my purpose.
Yeah, that's good. Well, Abraham Lincoln said, you can't believe everything you see on the internet. So that's good.
I'm sure he said that.
I saw it on the internet. So,
Was that next to Elvis? Was he quoting that too?
He just drove by. Did you see him in my window? Elvis, he checks in every now and then. How'd you know that?
Yeah.
Yeah, it's good to be, quote unquote, real, authentic, transparent. I mean, there's a lot of BSers. So, I think one of my greatest compliments is like when people meet me and they're like, you're just like you sound on your videos in your book. Yeah, there's no split personalities. It's just one crazy personality. Not even any makeup. I don't even use Instagram filters. Maybe I should. I'm a grandpa now. I think I'm getting a little.
I was gonna say I use filters. That's somewhere I have to draw the line a little bit. Aging it is not
great. Oh man.
Are we gonna explain that to the audience that might be listening and wondering what are you talking about?
Yeah, we can. I'll do it in the post production. But yeah, we just had audio issues. It's 11 years, 600 plus episodes. I've had to redo a few. Fortunately, not too many, but it happens. I've had bad audio on my end. I'm still learning. Like this Riverside is pretty new for me. Just last week, I got with my son. He's up in San Francisco, but super smart and good with audio. Maybe show me some changes, show me how to do some equalizer and compression things. And I'm probably going to get a mixer and a non-powered microphone because I've learned this too. So as we age, so the golds and yellows kind of start to go with our vision, but the high pitch we start to lose. And so powered microphones, but I've switched microphones because there was a high pitch coming from my Rode podcaster. But I had that thing for over a decade. But my son was hearing a little bit of a high pitch like that I couldn't hear. So, still after all these years, still learning. And so may just go back, old school. Because when you get these, I don't even know whatever the boxes are called, right? But the compression and everything else is done in the device, right? And then it's pushed to the GarageBand or whatever software you're using. So it's cleaner and better to do it with hardware than software. So yeah, we just had some audio issues. No biggie. Hey, keep them guessing. Keep them guessing.
Yeah, round 2 is good.
They don't have to know what's up. You know what I'm saying? Build some mystique. All right. Well, hey, it's 6:15 your time. I'll let you go. I'm going to go eat some lunch. I had my jujitsu, eat a late lunch. I got one more podcast today. But Angela Duncan from Miami, thanks for coming back on the show. It was great catching up.
Thank you.
Hey, have a great day.
Thank you so much for tuning into Empower Her Money podcast. Hope you enjoyed this episode. Don't forget to subscribe, share this podcast, and leave a review wherever you are tuning in.